Welcome back to another video on astrology. In this video, I'll be talking to you about the Jupiter transit that happens on November 5th, 2019. And Jupiter this time moves over from Scorpio to Sagittarius. And Jupiter likes to be in Sagittarius because Sagittarius is his own sign. And also it is its Mula Trikona. Mula Trikona is something special when considered against just a own house status. And this time Jupiter is moving very fast, and because of this he moves over from Dhanus to Makara, from Sagittarius to Capricorn on March 30th. This kind of speed is called as Atichara, and Jupiter, by coming into Capricorn, gets debilitated. Normally Jupiter spends one full year in a sign, but this time within a Jupiter year, Jupiter moves across two signs. And after some time, somewhere about mid-May, I think 14th, Jupiter starts going retrograde. And this retrograde motion brings it back to Dhanus on June 30th. And then September 13th, Jupiter turns direct in Sagittarius and then starts moving to Capricorn once again. And finally, on November 20th, Jupiter reaches Makara, Capricorn. So this makes 2020 a very special year because Jupiter is moving, and two times there are two transits of Jupiter, and then Saturn moves over into Makara from Dhanus, from Sagittarius to Capricorn, Jan 24th, 2020. And on top of that, you have a Rahu Ketu transit on September 23. So you have all the major grahas, those that move very slowly, all of them involved in transits. So 2020 is going to be a very eventful year. Because Jupiter moves from one sign to the next within a year, we need to prepare two charts for Jupiter transit. And we all know that Jupiter is good in when it comes to the 2nd, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, and the 11th from one's moon sign. So let's move Jupiter to where it is once the transit has happened, and then let's move Saturn to Capricorn. So this will be the situation after January 24th, once Saturn has entered Makara. And fortunately, there is no confusion with Saturn because Saturn stays there. In spite of retrograde motion, he does not come back to Dhanus. So this will be the situation. With regard to this, we need to understand the effects for each sign. So let's bring in the moon. If the moon is over here, then you are a Mesha Rasi person. And for Mesha Rasi person, Jupiter is in the 9th. So to make it simple, let's number the signs. So we have now numbered the signs. 1, 2, 3, 4 you can see, and now you can see Jupiter in the 9th and Saturn in the 10th. Once you have this information, you can go beyond my video and refer any standard book of astrology and find out what are the results given for Jupiter in the 9th and Saturn in the 10th. First, let's read out the result of Jupiter in the 9th. Faladipika says if Jupiter moves over the 9th house, the person concerned will succeed in enjoying all prosperity. That means it's a very prosperous time when Jupiter moves over the 9th house. And you can trust this to a good extent because Jupiter is in a very good status, because Jupiter is in its own sign and Mula Trikona. But there is something called Veda. Veda means obstructions. So whenever it comes to transit, you need to have this table. Let me show you this table. In this table, you will be able to see two rows. One is the blessing house, 2, 5, 7, 9, and 11, and blocking house 12, 4, 3, 10, and 8. So against the column Mesha, you will see that Jupiter is in the 9th, which is very good. But then the Veda logic says that if someone moves over the 10th house, then that result of the 9th house will be blocked. And this time it is blocked by Saturn. And since Saturn stays there for the whole year, this Jupiter transit in the 9th is not going to work that much. So it will be blocked by Saturn. When you know that Saturn is the blocking planet, it is better to do all the remedies concerning Saturn. At the end of this video, I'll be giving you a glimpse of what you could do if Saturn is unfavorable. So as long as you do the remedies, you will see you will continue to get the good effects of Jupiter in the ninth because the blocks will be removed. The meaning of a block is that the block can be overcome with effort. So now this is as long as Jupiter is in Sagittarius. On March 30th, 2020, Jupiter, with its extraordinary speed, Atichara, gets into the next sign, Makara, bringing Jupiter into the 10th house. Within 1 year, you have two types of Jupiters. One Jupiter in the 9th and Jupiter in the 10th. And the 10th house Jupiter is not welcome. It is considered inauspicious, mainly because it kind of puts a lot of pressure in the job area. And it is also, according to Faladipika, danger to one's prosperity, position, and children. All this is possible. But in my experience, I found that it puts a lot of pressure in the job, your profession, career. Now, let's move on to the next sign, which is Vrishaba. And so we need to renumber the houses. Now, this is Vrishaba Rasi. And so let's bring back Jupiter to where it is after the transit has happened on November 5th, 2019. So this is the original position. So you see that Jupiter is in the 8th house and Saturn is in the 9th house during the first part of the transit. Faladipika says if Jupiter is in the 8th, the person will be very tired, fatigued by long journeys, wearisome journeys, will be having a lot of bad luck during this period and suffer loss of money and feel a lot of challenges are there in their life. This is not a good transit, but it is also important to know that when Jupiter moves over the 8th house, which is challenging, you need to look out for grahas moving in the 11th house from your moon. So this is called Viparita Veda, and a negative, and then one more block to the negative, it will make it positive. So when Sun moves over Pisces, which happens between mid-March to mid-April, you will find a lot of relief. Not only that, there will be other planets that move. If, for example, Mars will move over Pisces, Meena Rashi, during June. So during that time also you will see some relief. So like this, you can use Jagannatha Hora to find out what are the grahas moving over the 11th from your moon sign, and expect the bad effects of Jupiter being in the 8th will be blocked. On March 30th, Jupiter moves over from Dhanus to Makara, from Sagittarius to Capricorn. So now Jupiter is in the 9th house. When Jupiter is in the 9th house, it is considered a period of prosperity. And in spite of Saturn being in the 9th house, which is not considered good, you find that Jupiter will be able to give a lot of favorable results. The meaning of this is based on guidance, based on good luck, and based on the grace of God, you will be able to solve the problems that Saturn in the 9th gives you. So this is considered a very good relief for people having Saturn in the 9th. They're lucky to have Jupiter in the 9th house. So now we move on to Mithuna Rashi. So let's bring back Jupiter to its original position. So from this you know that Jupiter is in the 7th house, and Jupiter in the 7th is good because Faladipika says the person will travel on auspicious undertaking. This may be business expansion, meeting a business partner, or meeting a future friend or someone you're going to get married to. All this is possible. Will be happy with his spouse and will be blessed with children. All this sounds very auspicious because it is hinting at marriage possibilities for those who are not yet married. From March onwards, again Jupiter moves over from the auspicious 7th to the 8th. Now the Jupiter transit in the 8th is not considered good because Faladipika says that the person will be tired by travel. Many short distance travel will tire you. There will be travel due to business reasons or due to personal reasons or any reason for that matter, and you will feel that a lot of bad luck prevails during this period and may suffer from loss of money, and you may feel very tense, and the situation might be a little tough, especially so because you're also going through what is called the Ashtama Shani, because Saturn is also in the 8th. So this could be quite challenging because of both the major planets in the sky occupying the eighth from your moon sign. So at the end of the video, I have given remedies for both Jupiter and for Saturn in case they are badly placed. But luckily for you, this is not going to be all through the year. And on June 30th, Jupiter moves out of Makara by a retrograde motion and goes away into and moves into Dhanus or Sagittarius, bringing it back to the 7th house, which is auspicious. So you only have a short period when Jupiter is in the 8th, and during the time when Jupiter is in the 7th, you can try to complete all your important jobs, like you make hay when the sun shines. So you can use this gap before Jupiter. You can use this interval of time to get all your things done. So now let's move on to Karkataka Rashi. And for Karkataka Rashi, let's renumber the houses. So from this, you know that Jupiter is in the 6th house. And Jupiter in the 6th house, Faladipika says there will be a lot of problems through enemies and cousins, close relatives, you can say. And because this is the house of disease, it can give you some health problem as well. And those who are drinking heavily, you will have to be forewarned that your liver may have some problem, because Jupiter in the 6th is normally related to the liver problems. But Jupiter doesn't stay here throughout the year, and luckily for you, Jupiter moves over to the 7th, which is an auspicious house. And the 7th house transit says, Faladipika says that the person will travel on auspicious undertakings and will be happy with his spouse and be blessed with children. This is a hint that some of you who are not married are waiting to get married. You will hear the good news. In case you're looking for a life partner, a friendship, even you will be able to make use of this Jupiter in the 7th. It doesn't stay here for a long time. On June 30th, Jupiter moves back from Makara to Dhanus by its retrograde motion and re-enters Dhanus. So it comes back to the 6th house. So Saturn in the 7th and Jupiter in the 6th, they're both not favorable. So Karkataka Rashi people will have to do a lot of prayers and charity to tide over this period when both the planets are unfavorably placed. Let's renumber the houses for Simha Rashi. So now we know that Jupiter is in the 5th house and Saturn is in the 6th house. So wow, this is a beautiful position to start with, because Saturn in the 6th is a wonderful transit of Saturn. And from the beginning, from Mesha, this is the first time we are getting a fantastic Saturn transit. And Simha Rashi also has the advantage that Jupiter is in the 5th house. So if you combine the effects, this will be out of the 12 signs, this will be on the top, because at one time Jupiter in the 5th and Saturn in the 6th. Jupiter in the 5th is good for friendship building and royal favor. Some of you are waiting for promotion will get the good news, and those who are in government positions, they will definitely get promotions, and those who are in politics, they'll be favored during this period, because Jupiter in the 5th and Saturn in the 6th. This is the best chance that you have, even in case you are in politics, because Faladipika says royal favor, the favor from the government. So recognition and name and fame, all this is going to get a boost during this transit. But Jupiter doesn't stay here for continuously, because of its erratic movement in 2020. Jupiter moves over to Makara, which is your 6th house, on March 30th by an extraordinary speed called Atichara. And during this phase, there will be a sudden letdown, because Jupiter is not going to help you. But the important point here is that Saturn is still placed in the 6th house, so you don't have to worry about it, because whenever it comes to transit, Saturn is always the big boss. You can say comparatively there will be a drop in luck, but Saturn will give you all the things that it has to give when it is in the 6th house. And this is once again, even this Jupiter transit is not permanent like all transits, and On June 30th, Jupiter, by its retrograde motion, goes back to Dhanus, Sagittarius, and it comes back to the fifth house. So once again, you continue to have all the good luck till November 20th. So for most part of the year, you are having most part of this transit, you are having a wonderful position of the Saturn and Jupiter together. Now let's move on to the next. So now let's move on to Kanya Rashi. And for Kanya Rashi people, Jupiter is in the fourth house. So here, Falatipika says this is not a good period because there will be a lot of sorrows due to relatives, a lot of problem in joint family, especially. One of somebody very important in the family may pass away. The person will also suffer humiliation according to Falatipika, the classical textbook on Gocha, and will have to apprehend danger from quadrupeds, which means injury through vehicles. But it can actually include quadrupeds like cattle, like any four-legged creature. And since most of the vehicles have four wheels, therefore four-wheelers can be a problem. And Jupiter is in the fourth, which is inauspicious, but the Viparita Veda, which I'm going to show in this, now you can watch this table. So here you see the fourth house transit is bad for Jupiter, but the Viparita Veda logic says that if someone else is in the fifth house, this result will be blocked. So consider yourself very lucky because in spite of Jupiter not being favorable, all that is not going to work. That you don't have to worry because Saturn is going to block it, because Saturn will be in the fifth from your moon sign. So this is Viparita Veda. So you should say thanks to Saturn that he is capable of blocking Jupiter. And after March 30th, you find Jupiter moves over to the fifth house, which makes it very auspicious. When Jupiter moves over the fifth house, Faladipika says friendship, acquisition, that is birth of children, grandchildren, as it may apply in your life. Friendship with the good and royal favor will be there. Royal favor actually means getting into the good books of your boss, promotion, and in case you're in politics, you might get a boost. So this is basically recognition for your hard work. It's a time for reward and awards. So Jupiter in the fifth is considered very good. After some time, Jupiter once again moves over from Makara back to Dhanus Rashi on June 30th. June 30th, Jupiter moves out of the fifth and re-enters the fourth. And as I told earlier, you don't have to worry about the bad effects of Jupiter in the fourth because Saturn has blocked it by what is called Viparita Veda. So now let's move on to the next sign. Now this is Tula Rashi. And in Tula Rashi, you find that Jupiter is actually in the third house. Loss of position, loss of job, going from one place to another, moving out of your residence. All this is something that we don't like at all. And Jupiter in the third is considered very stressful, both from the moon and even from Lagna. But since we are doing it only from the moon, as per Faladipika, we'll say that Jupiter in the third is not at all good. Separation from your friend, obviously because you're moving to another place. Obstacles in business, and there will also be health problems concerning usually the throat. And because of this, and this is not the only reason why there will be trouble. You already have a Saturn in the fourth house, which is also not good. And Saturn in the fourth and Jupiter in the third makes it extremely difficult for a Tula Rashi person. So at the end of this video, I've given instructions on what you should do to overcome these problems. We call it Jupiter remedies and Saturn remedies. And don't worry about this as long as you are very cautious, very careful while driving, and also very careful with your health, and do not do any big business expansion or investments, etc. So this is not the permanent situation of Jupiter, because Jupiter on March 30th moves over to Makara. And Jupiter comes into the fourth house, which is also not a very good transit. Jupiter in the fourth, again problem through sorrow through relations. So some bad news concerning a relative. a blood relative, and there will be possibilities of humiliation. Usually this may concern joint family, and those who live in joint family and those who live in situations where the business is connected to all the family members, they will most probably go through this humiliation, and we'll have to apprehend danger from quadrupeds, which is includes four-wheelers as well. But Jupiter doesn't stay here for long. After some time, on June 30th, he moves over back to, by retrograde motion, comes back and re-enters Dhanus Sagittarius, bringing it back to the third house. So in general, you can say that for Tula Rashi people, it's a more challenging phase. Whenever Jupiter is in the third, by looking at this table, you will know that any planet which goes over the seventh will give you relief. At the end of this video, anyway, I'll be displaying the table, so you can take a screenshot of this. Always keep looking out for blocks. For example, when planets move over the seventh from your moon over here, Mesha, so that can happen. Let's say Mars will be moving in Mesha, and that will be around September, and same way Sun will be moving in the month of May. Just keep looking out for planets in the seventh house. As they keep moving here, it will block the result of Jupiter. Whether I mention it or not, at the end of this video, you can always go through the Veda information and Viparita Veda information and do your own homework. So now let's move on to Vrishika Rasi people. And for Vrishika Rasi people, Jupiter is in the second house, which is very auspicious. When Jupiter passes through the second house, the native will acquire money. So the income will definitely get a boost, and will have domestic happiness, because second house is the house of family. Some of you are not yet married and you're looking for marriage. There's a great chance for getting married, and your voice will have a lot of influence. Your thoughts and voice and communication will have a lot of influence. So people who are in politics, they will definitely gain a lot from this. Or all the people who are in teaching profession, lawyers, all of them, whoever use the effect of words, including astrologers, they will all have a better time during this period. So Jupiter in the second is very good. What else do you need? You have Saturn in the third. So after Simha Rasi, or equal to Simha Rasi, you find a situation that for Vrishika Rasi people also, the transits of Jupiter and Saturn is at one time very good. Jupiter is the second and Saturn the third. So the sky is the limit for these people. And there will be a short gap when Jupiter exits the second and enters the third house in a very quick manner, and that happens between March 30th and June 30th. So from March 30th, Jupiter is in the third house, which will make it very unfavorable. So you can use this information to finish all your jobs, to try to complete and fulfill all your desires, as long as Jupiter is in Dhanus Rasi, in Sagittarius. And when it goes over Makara, you can stop trying to do big things, trying to do risky things, and just continue with day-to-day activities, and do not make some big changes in your life that is considered having a lot of risk in it. And this is the way you use astrology. And during this period, you can you can do a lot of remedies for Jupiter, because Jupiter in the third is not good. And after some time, on June 30th, Jupiter manages to get back to Dhanus by its retrograde motion. So once it is back in the third, you get back all the luck. And so for most part of the year, you will find only good things happening in this Jupiter transit. So congratulations. And on top of it, this Saturn transit that happens on January 24th marks the end of the Sadesati, 7.5 year Saturn that you have been going through for a very long time. So there are many reasons to congratulate. This actually makes Vrishika Rasi people the most lucky in terms of transit 2020. This is Dhanus Rasi when Moon is in Dhanus or Sagittarius and Jupiter is in the first house. Now Falatipika says during Jupiter transit in the Janma Rashi, the person concerned may have to leave his country. Nowadays this is not a very big problem because most people want to go abroad, at least from India. So this may not be exactly a bad time, but in a way it should be considered more challenging because you have to leave your home and you may incur expenditures. So loss of wealth is also possible. And because of all the things that happen around you, you may lose your cool, and it make you angry because of the situations that are changing in your life. So this is not a good transit. And you also have to bear in mind that you are in still in 7.5 year Saturn. But the good news is you have come to the last part of Sade Sati, 7.5 year Saturn. In spite of it, this transit is unfavorable. So, and after some time, March 30th, Jupiter moves over to the auspicious second house. So this is your time. This transit of Jupiter in Makara is a double benefit because Jupiter in the second is auspicious, and also it gives you a kind of relief, a temporary relief from the ill effects of Sade Sati. So this is the time that you should try to achieve and complete all your important jobs. As much as possible, you should try to use the temporary luck that is available in this period. And after some time, on June 30th, Jupiter comes back to Sagittarius, and it is once again Janma Guru. For most part of the year, the Jupiter is not favorably placed. Now let's move on to Makara Rashi people. Makara Rashi people have definitely a tougher time because it is the middle of Sade Sati, 7.5 year Saturn, and Jupiter is in the 12th house in Sagittarius. And the 12th house transit of Jupiter is not good because Faladipika says there will be a lot of problems, a lot of challenges, and especially fear caused through property, because the 12th house is the house of losing property, losing assets, or generally any kind of losing. So this is not a good transit in view of the fact that you're also going through the middle of 7.5 year Saturn. So please make sure you watch my video on top 8 facts about Saturn, and discipline yourself on Saturdays and 8th and 17th and 26th. Do not drink on Saturdays, and anytime when Saturn is ruling, become charitably disposed, go to temples, your place of worship, whatever that may be, and become a very kind and compassionate person, and try to do social service activities. During as long as you do all this, you will find that Jupiter will not be able to, the transit effects will not be able to bother you so much. On March 30th, Jupiter gets into Capricorn, where it is not only debilitated, but it is also what is called Janma Guru effect, which is Jupiter in the first house. During such times, Jupiter indicates that there will be a reason for leaving your country, or leaving the state you're working in. Some changes will happen, and there will be a lot of expense, and there will be a lot of tension while dealing with other people. Obviously so, because Jupiter in the first and then Saturn in the first, all this is likely to put a lot of pressure on the person's mind. During transits like this, the best way out is to try meditation and seek the help and mercy of the God Almighty. So regular prayers and regular charity is the way out. And after June 30th, Jupiter goes backwards into the 12th. It doesn't make much of a difference, but this just to say there will be some different kind of effects between the first house and the 12th house. So when Jupiter is in the 12th house for most part of the year, the Viparita Veda table, which you can see here, you can see from the table that when Jupiter moves in the 12th, any graha that moves over the second house, which in your case happens to be Kumbha, during such times you will feel the ill effects of Jupiter being blocked. So that is kind of a good news, and you can always look out for this. For example, you know that the sun always moves in this part of the zodiac between mid-Feb and mid-March. So during that time you will find some relief. You can also, by using Jagannatha Hora or using any other software, you can find out when grahas are actually moving over Kumbha or Aquarius. So now let's move on to Kumbha Rasi people. And for Kumbha Rashi, Saturn is in the 12th, which is the beginning of Sade Sati, 7.5 year Saturn phase. So please watch my video on top 8 facts about Saturn and get as much knowledge as possible about Saturn remedies. And as long as you do the remedies, there's nothing much to worry. hard work and belief in God and charity is the way out in Sadesati. Now, Jupiter is in the 11th house. This is actually considered very favorable because all planets in 11th house, when it comes to transit, it is always favorable. Birth of children, new positions, promotions, honor, honored, getting awards. All this is possible when Jupiter moves over the 11th. And also, this should be considered as a silver lining in the black cloud, because even in spite of 7.5 years Saturn, Jupiter is well placed. You should also be aware that Jupiter doesn't stay here for a long time, even in this year, because by his extraordinary speed, he goes over from Sagittarius to Capricorn on March 30th. And so now this becomes really tough and challenging because Jupiter in the 12th is not good. A lot of expenses, unwanted expenses especially, and threat to your properties. All this has been mentioned in Phaladipika. You find that at one time Jupiter is badly placed and Saturn is badly placed. But luckily for you, Jupiter doesn't stay here for a long time. On June 30th, he moves over from the 12th, goes back to the 11th, giving you once again the luck and the good things that are attributed to Jupiter in the 11th will definitely come to you in spite of Sadhe Sati. For Pisces, Jupiter is in the 10th. And whenever Jupiter is in the 10th, it puts a lot of pressure in your job. So Jupiter in the 10th will create a danger to one's prosperity, position. So whenever Saturn is well placed, you don't have to worry so much about Jupiter transit. Only where Saturn transit is already bad, you need to give a lot of importance to Jupiter transit. If Saturn is well placed, then even a badly placed Jupiter will not be that effective in giving the challenge. So Saturn in the 11th, you can bank on it, not to worry. And not only that, March 30th, by an extraordinary speed, Jupiter gets into the 11th house, which makes it very favorable. This makes you somewhat equal to two other signs like Simha Rashi or Vrishika Rasi people getting the full benefit of the transit. So during this time, from March 30th to June 30th, you must try to take advantage of the wonderful transit. So after June 30th, you find that Jupiter goes back to the 10th and starts giving you some minor problems in your career, but don't worry, Saturn in the 11th will help you sail through without much problem. We have come to the end of this video. In case you have any doubts, please type them out in the comment section, and whenever I find the time, I'll answer them for you. And see you soon in my next video.